The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, as usual, at the end of my presentation, I have quite a number of documents to table.
Rocks. Say rocks. Say rocks.
And I would ask the clerk if they can give me a warning at about the 6-minute interval to remind me that I have 6 more minutes, because there are some matters that I would like to bring forth at that particular time that I think the vehement populace would love to hear. Mr. Deputy, I rise today on behalf of the Kalani constituency to debate the compendium of bills, including digital assets and registered exchange bill, or as we know, the DARE bill. We are a tourism-based economy with a much smaller financial services sector serving as our second industry. And Parliament created the original DARE Act to give the Bahamas a cutting-edge legal and regulatory environment from which the emerging digital assets sector could operate. We are a small economy that needs innovation to generate more investments, more jobs, more growth, and more tax revenue. The framework took into consideration international best practices with the aim of making the Bahamas a global asset digital center. There were successes, Mr. Deputy. We attracted companies to our shores as the legislation intended. I support the aim of this legislation to strengthen the regulatory framework for digital assets. I thank the Bahamas Financial Services Commission, other agencies, and the private sector stakeholders involved in drafting and updating this legislation. Mr. Deputy, we are here today because of the fast-moving pace of and changes within the digital assets industry and the need for updated legislation within this context. We are also here today in great part because of past global and national events relative to digital assets. In the Bahamas, Mr. Deputy, after the case of FTX, we required further regulatory changes. The collapse of FTX and the subsequent fallout brought our reputation in question. And Sam Bankman-Fried came to town as the darling of the crypto business. He was a billionaire. His trading exchange was a giant in the industry. Some got giddy just being around him, especially because he was spending plenty of money all around town. and certain well-connected and high-priced lawyers and others did extremely well financially. Mr. Bankman-Fried and his business seemingly satisfied various regulatory requirements in our country. What we all painfully came to find out was that Sam Bankman-Fried was a fraudster. Did Mr. Bankman-Fried believe he was so close to power that he could do anything in the Bahamas? He was detained here after being charged in the United States. He was then transferred to the United States to stand trial. And the former crypto giant was convicted and subsequently sentenced to 25 years in prison for his crimes. International stories of Mr. Bankman-Fried and the Bahamas dominated the international media throughout the ordeal. The work continues to make whole all the FTX investors Sam Bankman-Fried harmed. The good news is it appears much was recovered. This made it possible, Mr. Deputy, to give back to the many victims of the fraudulent conduct of Mr. Bankman-Fried and others. Mr. Deputy, this DARE Act is designed to be an improvement on the past act, taking into consideration what we learned as a country. Tightening up regulations is important, especially after the FTX implosion. The Bahamas must not again be considered a place for crookedness by bad actors. It took a long time to clean up the international reputation of our country over the years. One of the legacies of the FNM is what it did to clean up and bolster the name of the Bahamas after coming to office in 1992. After 25 years of PLP rule and then misrule, the reputation of the Bahamas was in tatters. The Free National Movement administration of the 1990s did historic work in reestablishing the Bahamas as a law-abiding jurisdiction after the bad years. As legislators, we must ensure in this generation that the fly-by-night fraudsters and hustlers know this is not the place for their schemes. It is important, Mr. Deputy, that with this new DARE bill and associated legislation, regulators ensure that participants in the industry follow all requirements of the law. There must also be less fawning over people who come to the Bahamas to be involved in this sector. Disclosures after the scandal emerged showed that Mr. Bankman-Fried was on a first-name basis with some cabinet ministers. After FTX collapsed, the Prime Minister appeared to distance himself from Mr. Fried. However, as was reported in the Tribune on October 19, 2023, the Prime Minister sent an email to Sam. The Prime Minister allegedly asked Sam Bankman-Fried to provide advice to his son about a digital assets project the latter was working on just 2 months before FTX collapsed. The disclosure came during the FTX founder's ongoing New York trial over the misappropriation of millions of dollars in clients' funds. The CoinDesk website, which has covered the trial, reported that Mr. Davis, in the email, asked Mr. Bankman-Fried if his son could call the FTX chief to talk and seek advice about a non-fungible token, NFT, project he was working on. Mr. Bankman-Fried allegedly seemed agreeable and said he would be available to the Prime Minister's son via Zoom or phone. CoinDesk reported that it underscores the cozy relationship the FTX chief enjoyed with officials in the Bahamas. The Nassau Guardian of November 2nd, 2023, reported something the Prime Minister did not previously tell the country. The paper reported, quote, in the September 2022 email Davis sent from his Gmail account, the Prime Minister wrote, quote, Sam, my son is being engaged as a consultant for the NFT entity that is considering your platform. Grateful if you were to take a call to discuss. My son is copied on this email. Thanks, end quote, end quote. During one of his sightseeing tours to Africa, this time to Botswana, the Prime Minister bragged in a press conference in the country, quote, of course, there was a fight between the Bahamas and the United States over jurisdictional issues as to who, where, and how the liquidation of FTX should take place. He went on, he claimed, I can say that we prevailed despite what the courts in the United States said, because I was in possession of the assets, because I seized them, end quote. He said, I was able to do so because of, quote, my regulatory framework, end quote. This was all reported in the Nassau Guardian of March 19, 2024, and all these will be tabled, Mr. Deputy. Of course, the Prime Minister, who still hasn't told us who paid for the luxury jet for the trip to Botswana, sounded like a dictator. First of all, the assets were seized by the regulators. And
Members,
the Prime Minister is not,
honorable members,
not the regulator.
I see the problem now. I see the problem.
I see the problem. Second, the regulator regime is that of the Bahamas and not that of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister of the Bahamas does not have something called my regulatory framework. I guess he wanted to say him indifferent. The Prime Minister said he was in possession of the assets. Really? Wonder what that meant, Mr. Deputy. Since he says he was in possession of the assets, can he please inform the House if any prominent members of his government were on the asset list? Are any...
the chair recognizes the honorable member for Charlotte.
If the honorable member for Kalani were to abide by the rules of this House, you cannot use publication alleging, it seemed like, and other such conditional words, unless this honorable member is prepared to adopt
But you
as
know
his
I am.
own words.
But you know I am.
No,
So I don't
you
know why
cannot adopt. You cannot adopt the speculation by third parties as your own when the third parties themselves have said that their statements are conditional, are speculative. Mr. Deputy, secondly, Mr. Deputy, imputation imputation. These are the rules of this honorable house. Imputations of improper motive, personal reflection on members are to be dealt with by you as Speaker. This member cannot just glean from newspapers speculation, allegation, and put it in the public domain. The honorable member for East Grand Bahama this morning spoke about how words stated in this parliament that is on live broadcast can damage the jurisdiction. We are here, and what we have is this constant litany of speculation and scandalous allegation. And then because he says he's going to adopt it, how could you adopt an allegation? How can you adopt someone that says it seems that? It is unfair, Mr. Deputy, and I ask that all of that be struck from the record if the honorable member for Kalani were not to withdraw.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member.
Deputy, I don't know what the member, I know the member's trying to delay my time. I don't know what the member is talking about. But I state very clearly articles of which I'm referring to, and I state very clearly that they would be tabled. The member knows that once those are tabled, I've adopted what is being said, and I adopt what will be said.
The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Charlotte.
Use as a cover something that is published which in its content says that it is an allegation, says that it appears, says that it seems. Those are not statement of facts. You can adopt a statement of fact, but how could you put something conditional, allegation, and simply under this rubric, which is intended, Mr. Deputy, you know, I certainly wouldn't do it to the honorable member. And we all in this house as honorable members. We're not here in primary school trying to play fire bun. You know what I'm saying? It says, as his own words, and such are relevant. Listen to this, Mr. Deputy. This is the rule, 33. Every member desiring to speak shall rise, address the chair. A member may read extracts from books, journals, papers, and documents, and may refresh his memory from notes. But he shall not quote from newspapers unless he adopts such quotes as his own words, and such are relevant to the business under debate. Now, how could he adopt an allegation? How is that relevant? How is it relevant to the matters under debate today?
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Remember saying where I said Mr. Bankman-Fried allegedly seemed agreeable. Those are my words. What's your stress? That's my words.
Allegedly.
That are my words.
Are conditional. How could they not statement of facts?
They are my words.
Okay, the Honorable Member is saying that they are his words.
If you want to make it an allegation, why are you trying to hide behind a newspaper?
Those were my words. There is nothing to be withdrawn. Mr. Deputy, the other question, are any family members of any cabinet ministers on this list? Mr. Deputy, many in the country were deeply concerned when they read a story in the Tribune on May 24th. Now listen carefully, 2024, headlines, FTX $675,000 link to government officials, end quote, headline. The story drew on court filings out of the United States. And the story said, FTX and its jailed founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, paid $675,000 to entities affiliated with high-ranking Bahamian government officials and their families. It was revealed yesterday. Robert Clary, the examiner appointed by the U.S. Justice Department trustee to investigate the crypto exchanges collapse, this out of your field, states. Department trustee to investigate the crypto exchanges collapse revealed that one purported donation totaled $500,000 as the probe into multi-billion-dollar fraud inched a step closer to the Bahamian political and official elite. His report, filed with the Delaware Bankruptcy Court in a section entitled Payments to and Contacts with Bahamian Government Officials, drew on evidence assembled by Nadello and Company, a global investigations firm that specializes in bribery and corruption-related matters, plus Sullivan and Cromwell, the law firm working for FTX's U.S. Chief John Ray, to reach its conclusion. Has there been a full investigation launched in the Bahamas into who these government officials and families are? Is the Prime Minister aware of who these officials are? Are any of these officials in his government or closely connected to the PLP? We must find out, Mr. Deputy, if any corruption occurred. The Prime Minister, Mr. Deputy, please. The Prime Minister
The chair
and
recognizes
Minister of Finance.
Honorable member, the chair recognizes the
I
honorable member
told
for
you before.
Yamakro.
Mr. Deputy, the good member is the good member.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Yamakro.
Well, the honorable member, he contends that he is an elephant, but I dare say ants do eat elephants. And if you wait long enough, if you live long enough, or if you wait long enough, you might live to see it. The competent authority who stood up in this house, or the former competent authority, with a strong language, would wish to call the Progressive Liberal Party in his rant of imputations of whatever manner of evil he is trying to spew. Because all it is setting a tone in the public that is totally against what our parliamentary procedures rules are. And if the good member wish to continue down imputing government officials, let him tell the full story, that the government officials, that government official includes the government, who is in power administration, and the opposition. And the opposition, in this case, as a Majesty's loyal opposition, there's an article that is very clear in November 25th, 2022, that I will table from the minister, the same Minister of State who advised for finance, who used to advise the competent authority on finances, that I dare say messed up this country and put us in the position. The article says, you could answer after this. The article says, you're sitting right there, the member for East Grand Bahama, who's all of a sudden an expert on finance. The article says, the former, and I will table this, the former Free National Cabinet Minister took full credit for FTX's presence in the Bahamas, but the opposition party changed its tone the minute the company became ensnared in controversy. The article says Months before the crypto company's widely publicized collapse, former Minister of State for Finance, Kwesi Thompson, said in the House of Assembly, we, quote, "We are pleased to see that the fruits of the Free National Movement have resulted in FDX moving to the Bahamas, and we are also pleased to see the other wonderful results," close quote. In fact, Thompson expressed regret that the embattled company did not base its headquarters in his native Grand Bahama, whose residents elected him as Member of Parliament. Quote from Kwesi Thompson, "My only regret is that we were unable to get FTX to set up shop in Freeport or set up shop in Grand Bahama as opposed to doing it in New Providence." Quote, "It is also good to see the government continuing the vision of the Free National Movement, taking full credit. Companies like FDX are game changers for the Bahamas," said Thompson. The F&M MP continued, open quote, "FDX is to the Bahamas fintech industry and the Bahamian technology industry what Atlantis is for tourism. And we know what Atlantis means for tourism in the Bahamas. And FDX's arrival here in the Bahamas is what Atlantis is for tourism," close quote. And then it goes to F. However, I can table the whole document so you can read it. Because you're misleading Parliament, you're trying to mislead the Bahamian people and brainwash them into falsehoods. Take responsibility, because you only know to take responsibility when things going good.
Thank you, Honourable Member. No, members. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama. Order, members.
Mr. Deputy,
Order.
I consider myself an aunt too. So I don't know why they are attempting to bring me in on this debate. But let me speak to what the member for Yamakwa said.
I did say that.
I did.
Yes.
Because we passed the legislation.
Absolutely.
We passed the legislation in 2020. And it was the member for Cat Island and also Sam Bankman-Fried who said the legislation was the thing that brought FTX here. So we cannot run away from the facts. We passed the legislation.
Order, members.
And so I spoke. So what I said in this place, was that we passed the legislation, and it was the legislation that brought FTX and brought other cryptocurrency companies that was here. And the comments that I made, Mr. Deputy, the comments that I made was consistent with what the comments from Cat Island made when he opened their headquarters. He also praised FTX for coming to the Bahamas. He also spoke to the legislation as he spoke to the legislation today. So there is no difference from what I said and what the member for Cat Island said at that time. We brought the legislation
1 minute,
in,
Yamakwa.
and it was the legislation that brought FTX here. That was the only context that I spoke into. I never met them. That was the only context that I spoke. The only context, Mr. Deputy.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Yamakwa.
Now that the facts are clear, or clearer, I invite the Honourable Member for Kalani to expand his questions if he chooses to go down to naming and asking questions about the Progressive Liberal Party, to ask himself, ask him for his former Minister of Finance and his former Minister of State for Finance and every other former cabinet minister who was there, of their relationship, or their alleged involvement with FTX. I invite him to do the honorable thing and expand if he goes down to that level of question.
Thank you, honorable member.
Let
The chair recognizes the honorable member for
Let me say
East
this
Grand
also,
Bahama.
Mr. Deputy, because this is again, it's a serious matter.
Three-piece. He had enough for you.
And because the member for Yamakra called this member in particular. No, you called my name. You called my name. So let me make this clear. I never met. While I was the Minister for State for Finance, I never met them. I never met them. Never met them, never spoke to them, had nothing to do with approving them, Mr. Deputy. So let me make that point
order, members.
absolutely clear. Let me make that absolutely clear.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. We have allowed, Mr. Deputy, we have allowed three-piece to waste sufficient of our time. The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance has repeatedly failed to answer questions on FTX, including a number I have previously put to him.
Order, members.
Why has he failed to answer so many questions? Mr. Deputy, the law we currently intend to pass can only be considered strong if we have people in authority behind the scenes who are honest and speaks the truth. Let me say that again, three-piece, so you'd understand. The law. Mr. Deputy, let me finish.
The chair.
We do not need.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Yamakra.
Mr. Deputy, the good member, the member for Kalani in this case, the member for Kalani has resorted to name calling. I must have struck a nerve, right? And it's the honorable member for Yamakra, if you want to know. Yamakra is watching. It's not three-piece. And if you have no, you said it on your feet. No, I'm on a point of order. 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 So the good member.
Honorable members.
Thank you.
Members.
The front row got up, so three-piece is not there. The member on the southern end of the back bench, I don't know he's three-piece. Anyhow, Mr. Deputy, allow me to continue.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Yamakra. He's standing on the point of order.
Stop that clock.
I could bring it as a point of privilege, you know. I don't mind them throwing stones now because it struck a nerve, Mr. Deputy. And it's very funny that the only persons who comment on my attire more than the members over there is my wife, who agrees and who dressed me. so I wonder what their affinity. With the way that I attire myself in the days of house, what their affinity is with my dress. I had asked him to refrain. If he meant in a derogatory state, I take it as a gesture that I can, you know, they've said it, and I choose to put a vest on for various reasons, and they understand. But I'm asking him to withdraw from name calling because it's unparliamentary in its nature, and it's,
thank you, honorable member.
And in accordance with Rule 18, all right, when offensive, or hey, we could think of a million names.
Honorable member, I would take that under advice, but I would ask the honorable member for Kalani to stop addressing you as three-piece. You find it offensive. It will be stricken from the record. Thank you, honorable member. We're moving on. Order, members.
hope that they get a good laugh, right? So when any offensive, this is not just, Mr. Deputy, this is not just a complaint. 18 says, when any offensive abuse or insulting words are used by a member in the House or in committee, they shall be expunged from the record, and the proceedings of the order of the Speaker or Chairman. So I'm asking you to
Honourable
not
member,
only ask
it
him to
will be
withdraw.
expunged from the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I look forward to not having to call them names, because I could call some names also, if that's
Yeah,
what we allow
we're
it.
not going down that road.
But it's unparliamentary.
Except the child of God, it does not affect me. But as to neutralize everything, either tomorrow or next week, I will come in three-piece.
Wonderful.
Mr. Deputy, Mr. Deputy, we have learned from the Brankman Field experience and subsequently indictments of other individuals by the U.S. in other situations that there are a good number of crooks in this sector. We want investment. We welcome investments, but we do not want money of criminals. Mr. Deputy, Mr. Deputy,
You make it? You can be all right?
oh boy, you have me laughing. Mr. Deputy, the Securities Commission speaks of promoting investor education. And that was why we were introducing the National Feeding and After School Program. Our after school program comprised of 3 sectors. There was an academic component so that students could be assisted with their homeworks before they go home and studying. There was a sports component to assist with chronic non-communicable disease and improve the health of our students and population. And there was another component. The other component, which would have been done at least twice per week, 10, 15-minute segments, consisted of conflict resolution, crime, finance, constitution, savings, and investment. When we listened to the member for Carmichael last week, member for Carmichael do not appreciate the concept of investment or shares. First of all, you buy low and you sell high. You sell when it is most important to deal with matters that you'd consider urgent that needs to be dealt with and paid, or important debt. But also, the bill also spoke of misleading or deception and dishonesty. And that member, Mr. Deputy, displayed complete dishonesty when he said, I quote, "It behooves him, we, meaning my government, sold off all American foreign assets in national insurance in 2020. To who?" He asked, to who? And while he was saying this, while he was saying this, there were many laughing. They were banging. The bangers were banging and cheering along. But yet, if he had looked at the member for Fort Charlotte's face, you would see that the member for Fort Charlotte, and it's my interpretation, to me it appears as if he's saying, man, don't go down that road. See, you can get the fact. That's me. That's my interpretation. I have.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Charlotte.
Order. In this House, my understanding of the rules, we don't look at each other's face and communicate by trying to read each other's face. We are recognized by you, Mr. Deputy, and we make our representation in accordance with the rules. I wish that that statement be stricken from the record unless the Honorable... No, but I'm saying, I've seen many things on your face, but... Okay. It's strict.
Honorable member, we will have that stricken from the record.
While others were knocking, banging, the member did not. And therefore, one has to wonder why. But, Mr. Deputy, his statement was completely
So sensitive.
dishonest or misleading. But what would you expect? What would you expect from such a member? What would you expect from such a member? When on the 31st of May, he was sitting, last year, he was sitting in this parliament while the budget communication was going on. On the 29th of May, Frank Racine died, passed away. The member left the Bahamas and headed to Switzerland the first part of June. Now, remember, Racine died the 29th of May. And the member subsequently said to the press and the public that Mr. Racine called him in Switzerland. Now, he was not there until the first part of June. Called him in Switzerland and asked if his wife, on his dying bed, would obtain some form of citizenship. Mr. Deputy, I would like to borrow that phone the member had, because he was in Switzerland and Racine was dead over a week before. Because there are many whom I want to call, because obviously he can call the dead. I want to borrow that phone.
That phone was alive.
So what would you expect from such a member? And you know, Mr. Deputy, when I was talking to one of my kids, and we were talking about people misconstruing or talking about all American foreign assets behooves him. He said to me, Daddy, this is my grandson, sorry. He said, Papi, remember, you and others must be very careful, because there's a Bahamian saying that a liar is a thief, and a thief is a murderer. That's a Bahamian saying. I'm not saying the member is. I'm not saying the member is.
The chair recognizes the honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown. Honourable member for Kalani, you have 6 minutes left.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the member for Kalani has said that what the member for Carmichael said was misleading. He has gone a wandering. Well, I'm coming to that. He has gone a wandering, and has not set out anything that he said, Carmichael said, that is in fact misleading. He has said Carmichael was dishonest. He has not set out anything that he said, Carmichael said, that is not true. And, Mr. Deputy Speaker, he's now seeking to escalate it with his recent comment. And unless he can point out something that he said, Carmichael said, that is actually misleading, he ought to withdraw that. Unless he can show intent, he ought to withdraw dishonesty, and the unparliamentary language should be struck. This is the Court of Parliament, St. Anne's.
Thank you, honourable member.
Listen very carefully. Free down. Hold my 6 minutes, because I'm taking my time. Listen very carefully. He said it behoves him that we my government, which is not true, sold off all American foreign assets in NI. That is not true. We, all right? That's not true. Or misleading. Mr. Deputy, first and foremost, central government has no involvement or decision-making with NIB's investment. Second, central government, we do not interfere. Second, central bank and NIB was involved in this matter. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Deputy, at that time there was a pandemic. And the world was locked down. The world. Nobody was working, but in spite of that,
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
What I heard the member right. He said that the central government has no
I'm talking
involvement.
about the executive. Us.
Executive government has no
We did
dealing
not.
With NIB investments. Now, I'm no elephant, so he can stay in his pen and fight by himself, because we are not in the same pen, Mr. Deputy Speaker. But I was sitting down and I was asking the member for East Grand Bahama to please pull on his former leader's coat and let him know that when it comes down to investments, particularly investments, at NIB, the Act says that it's the minister, explicitly, that the Minister of Finance has to authorize and give consent.
Let me say.
Tell him I wouldn't get up,
Let me say, Mr. Deputy.
Because he's in this pen I don't want to be in.
I mean, central
I
government.
asked you to do it.
We did not.
Don't sit there. I see why you're flounder. I didn't say interfere. What you said was, you said that you had that the government has no involvement. The law, they could not have done it without your permission.
Honorable members, I would ask each member to approve, the chair. No, I don't need you to engage each other. Thank you, honorable members.
There was a pandemic. The world was locked down. There was no employment. As a result of that, Mr. Deputy, no monies were coming in, no tourists were coming. Our revenue stream was down. We had decided that not only were the government was concerned, if you finish and listen, the government was concerned not only with saving lives, but also saving the economic life. And that was why all civil servants and others were paid. And the reasons were straightforward, Mr. Deputy. The reasons were straightforward. Their payment allowed them to pay their mortgage, their lights, their rent, and other bills. Their payments allowed money to go through the system, the local, the domestic economy. The unemployment via central bank and by NIB and others allowed the unemployed, the self-employed, taxi drivers, here, braiders, bus drivers, etc., to be paid so that money could go through the system. That money would have been used by the banks to pay their staff. As a result of those who had stopped working being paid, there was a decrease in furlough, a decrease in foreclosures, and therefore homes would have been saved. The banking sector, the financial sector, because of those decisions, would have been helped. The shares that was agreed by Central Bank and NIB, those shares, that would have allowed monies, foreign currency, to come to maintain and sustain our reserves. At the same time, Central Bank had made a decision that the banks were not allowed at that time to repatriate their funds abroad. so as to maintain as much foreign currency here as possible. So, Mr. Deputy, those decisions would have saved not only the human life, but also the economic life of the country. And those were important decisions. But, Mr. Deputy, I know I only have a few minutes. There's something that bothered me. And as you move around the island, you would hear people saying repeatedly that they believe one of the most organized forms of corruption or dishonesty is occurring within the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Deputy, after Hurricane Dorian, we passed a bill called the SERS, which allowed certain materials, cars, etc., to be imported into the country duty-free. The government subsequently extended that bill, and I have the bill at the table, and that bill was extended until the 1st of December, 2022. Mr. Deputy, in spite of that, lots of vehicles were being brought into this country after the bill had expired, and those vehicles would have come in under the SERS bill, totally illegal, and as a result, no duties, etc., were paid. I have a document. This document showed that well in excess of $1 million would have come via this route, and these were high-end cars. Declaration number, this came in 2023, and you'd find that, we'll lay the document, you'll find that in some instances there were one individual may have had 3 high-end cars come in using the SERS law after that expired since December of 2022, and these cars would have gotten authorization via this law in 2023. Some of these cars would have already obtained license, and you know the process of obtaining license. But, Mr. Deputy, this is only the high-end cars. There are other vehicles, and so we're talking about millions and millions of dollars that are brought into the country and no duties are paid, utilizing the SERS law, which was signed off by various officers. Mr. Deputy, what is ironic is that not only are cars brought in, but there are other items brought in, for example, clothes, beds, bedding material, electrical fixtures, generators, fishing, farming, hardware supplies, household furniture. So if we have documentation with cars, millions of dollars of cars being brought in without any duty, utilizing, can you imagine what happened in the other sectors? The same thing could have happened in the other sectors. And this law was brought in, meaning for these vehicles to remain on the given island, not to come through Grand Bahama or Abaco and subsequently brought here to New Providence or shipped to other islands. Millions and millions of dollars. The same could have happened with the other items, furnishings, etc., utilizing the SERS, but there's evidence for the vehicles. Mr. Deputy, this needs serious investigation and dealt with appropriately. And then the JDL. Nobody's dealing with this company that's usurping the jobs of custom. It's usurping the job of custom. Can you imagine materials coming in? This private company, all the freight goes to this, air freight goes to this particular company. They would check it. What's to stop them from removing contrabands, gun, etc., out of the packages before it's given to customs? Or what's to stop them from placing contrabands and drugs in packages, setting individuals up, and then it's going to customs? I asked the Prime Minister to stop this. It is wrong. Stop it. And Bahamians must understand what's going on.
Honorable member, are you requesting more time?
Yes, Mr. Deputy.
Thank
Could
you,
I
honorable member.
have 3 minutes,
No
4
problem.
minutes to complete?
Yes, honorable member.
Bahamians must recognize that because of what is happening via JDL, it causes the cost of living to go up because they are paying additional costs. Because of what is happening via the SARS bill that was completed since December of 22nd, and materials are still being brought in today, being signed off on this particular bill, the cost of living subsequently goes up again. And who's paying? The poor. The poor. This must stop. And sooner or later, Bahamians must demonstrate peacefully against these matters. And if they want to demonstrate, I will walk with them because it's wrong. It's wrong. I ask you to stop it. Stop the JDL and investigate this matter. Vehicles and other matters, furnishing, etc., are being brought in, and the payment is not completed. Mr. Deputy, I will table those documents, but if you would allow me to now carry on.
Time up. Time up.
4 more minutes. 4 more minutes.
What's that?
Don't believe the chair.
Y'all in movement notes.
It's okay.
Huh?
Take it down, man.
Oh, here it is, here it is. Mr. Deputy, I will conclude. I will conclude by stating that the controversy the Davis administration is in over the plane is entirely of their own making. They spent their time flying all over the world, having fun at conferences at taxpayers' expenses. We saw the Prime Minister having fun at the pyramids. We saw the Prime Minister feeding the chimpanzees. We saw the pictures as he visited all those cities around the globe. And this Prime Minister has fun seeing the world with his traveling companions, while the Bahamian people were battling inflation. Taxpayers were struggling to pay their light. And the light bill, Mr. Deputy, between last month and this month has gone up by more than 436% for some individuals. 436%. Food prices have gone up. Food prices have gone up. Insurance has gone up. Healthcare, car loans, and other bills, while the PLP High Command and consultants were living it up.
Mayday.
People need relief. They cannot afford a 400% increase. They need relief. And some form of relief can be done tomorrow by stopping the JDL, this extra illegal fees that are placed on Bahamians. By dealing with this SARS illegal vehicles coming in, costing millions and millions of dollars. The racket has to stop. You cannot allow such illegal racket to continue. With vehicles, high-end vehicles being brought into this country through Abaco, through Grand Bahama, and sent to other islands. Lower-end vehicles and medium vehicles, same thing. And the same thing, God forbid, may be happening with furnitures, appliances, etc., using the same bill that I will table. Stop. Bahamians are suffering. Thank you, Mr. Deputy.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Exuma and Reagan Island.
Kalani undertook to lay several documents, and there seemed to be a pattern of behavior. He makes these promises to lay documents, and he never gets around to doing it.
Hardly in Parliament when I'm speaking. So I don't know. I know he wants to get in this. I know he wants something to say. But when you want to say something, speak from position of facts. Mr. Deputy, we talking about inflation. This member's always out. His salary should be cut. Mr. Deputy, please.
Thank you, honorable member.
What's today's date? At least you must remember that.
Order that the documents be brought up.
26?
Yeah, 26.
Oh, okay. These two. Yeah, okay.
Major. These are
Hold on, I want to table the says. This is deputy, it's a legal document called Disaster Reconstruction Authority Special Economic Recovery Zone Relief. This has to be tabled. Any approval granted shall be valid until the first day of December 2022. Vehicles 2023 are being approved. The racket must stop. 26 of the 6th. Furnishing being brought in. Appliances being brought in. And I have to pay. The poor people have to pay. It's wrong. Mr. Deputy, they want to know about the cars? The cars. Declaration number 2023, December so and so and so. Vehicle, international truck, Ford, Mercedes, Chevrolet, Ford, Land Rover, Chevrolet, Dodge. The payment people want to hear. Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, Chevrolet, Jeep, Mercedes, Chevrolet, Toyota, Land Rover, Jeep, Mercedes, GMC, Lexus, Jeep, Tesla,
King Air.
Mini, not Minister, Mini, Ford, Mercedes, Jeep, Tesla, Cruise. What type of car that is? Cruise, C-R-U-S. I don't know that one. That's the one you drive. Cruise. No, man, I just drive a car y'all provide. Tesla, GMC, ProMaster, Honda, BMW.
He has to read it, y'all want to take it, you gotta make sure it's read.
Nah,
Public deserves to know.
And they have license number and all. License number.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for North Abaco.
Anyhow, let me, what, 26?
Deputy Prime Minister,
Hold on, Mr. Deputy,
I've been recognized.
Still tabling documents.
yes.
You can't
I've been
continue proceedings.
This is the building materials which should be attached to the SARS bill, which shows that building materials, furnishings, and all those are also a part of it.
3x8 ply. Shingles and more shingles.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for North Abaco.
Deputy Prime Minister, sorry, Deputy Speaker, I've given you Prime Minister post already. I good. I stand on the point of order. While I don't support corruption in no shape, form, or fashion, and whatever practice is being used for the sales orders, I'm with the former Prime Minister, cease, desist, stop. Whatever investigation needs to carry on, please do. However, I wish to point out, we sit here and giggle and laugh and show jazz about the sales order. I'm from North Abaco. I spent 47 years living there with these people. Before Doreen, I went to school to do electrical. My father taught me dry water. I worked at Water and Sewage Corporation. I was faced with paying persons' bills, water and sewage bills. I went to their house to do dry water and couldn't charge $1. I did electrical and couldn't charge it. They just didn't have it. Doreen came and took, Doreen came and took their entire life achievement, in some cases generational life achievement. And I have persons presently today that are in dire need of the sales order, just to try to get our life to some sense of normalcy. Yes. Poor people. The same people we spoke of with the tax break, these are the same poor people. My point I'm making is, let's not muddy the water when it comes to the sales. There are bad characters, let's find them, deal with them, but let us utilize the sales to help get my people who I'm here to represent, who I care about so much, back on their feet again. Their lives was destroyed. They lost everything. I have countless of persons who calls me daily, reach out daily for duty-free on their vehicles that they were unable to purchase after the hurricane because they wasn't making sufficient money to replace it. Homes that need to be restored, they wasn't able to buy the necessary materials. And in some cases, they are now beginning to be able to. So I'm asking that we can all enjoy our profession as we get here and work towards bettering this country. But we are talking about human beings whose lives was completely destroyed and taken. Their life is not normal. So the SARS order is very important to Abaco on the whole. I'm sure Grand Bahama feels the same way.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Kalani.
Deputy, the member has a valid point. My research with hurricanes throughout the world would point out that before individuals can really get started, because of shortage of supplies, mobilization of materials, equipment, monies, etc., it actually takes 5 years. 5 years. That's what my research has shown. Dorian was different. Nobody can speak about Dorian. So I think governments were wrong, you and we, in that the SARS order should have been applied for 5 years. That's what the research has shown. Unfortunately, this has just come to us, but Dorian has never been seen. So I agree with the member, the SARS order should have been in place for 5 years, but properly monitored, or it will be abused as we're having today.